everybody, in this video we're going to talk a little bit more about deontology, moving on to Kant's notion of the categorical imperative. Let's get into it. Last time we saw how Kant was talking about the notion of the goodwill. He moves on from the notion of goodwill to a notion of duty. Let's see. He says, we have then to explicate the concept of a will that is to be esteemed in itself, and that is good apart from any further purpose, as it already dwells in natural sound understanding and needs not so much to be taught as only to be clarified. This concept that always takes first place in estimating the total worth of our actions and constitutes the condition of all the rest. In order to do so, we shall set before ourselves the concept of duty, which contains that of a good will, though under certain subjective limitations and hindrances, which, however far from concealing it and making it unrecognizable, rather bring it out by contrast and make it shine forth all the more brightly. So he's saying there's a notion of duty that comes into play. So what's duty? Well, duty is that which we're supposed to do. And really that breaks down into two kinds of duties, hypothetical and categorical imperatives. Hypothetical imperatives, those things that you should do if you want to get something done, and categorical imperatives, those things that you should do categorically no matter what. This is what he says, now all imperatives command either hypothetically or categorically. The former represent the practical necessity of a possible action as a means to achieving something else that one wills, or that it is at least possible for one to will. The categorical imperative would be that which represented an action as objectively necessary of itself, without reference to another end. So hypothetical imperatives, like if you want to lose 20 pounds, you exercise and you diet. Categorical imperatives, this is not something that you just do because you want to achieve a certain goal. This is something that you gotta do no matter what. That's why he says, since every practical law represents a possible action as good and thus necessary for a subject practically determinable by reason, all imperatives are formulae for the determination of an action that is necessary in accordance with the principle of a will, which is good in some way. Like I said, the hypothetical imperatives, if you want to achieve a certain goal, you follow a hypothetical imperative. Now, if the action would be merely good as a means to something else, the imperative is hypothetical. Like you wanted to lose weight, you wanted to learn French, you do some Duolingo courses or whatever. If the action is represented as in itself good, hence as necessary in a will, in itself conforming to reason as its principle, then it's categorical. You do it no matter what. So where this is going to go, it's going to be something like you want to lose weight, you exercise and diet, you want to learn French, you start taking a French course, but am I supposed to murder? No, you don't do that categorically. It's not just a matter of practicing it to achieve some end. There's some ends that we should follow no matter what, and that's what duty is. Hypothetical or categorical. And what Kant is going to say is that there are basically three versions or formulations of the categorical imperative. Those things that you've got to do no matter what. Let's take a look at the first one. So he says this, there is therefore only a single categorical imperative, and by this he means the first formulation of the categorical imperative, and it is this: act only in accordance with that maxim, through which you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. Basically, this means you should only do something if you would accept everybody doing it. So something that Kant brings up fairly often is lying. Should you tell a lie? Really, you should only accept lying if you'd be okay with everybody lying all the time. Would you want people to lie to you? And if the answer is no, if there's ever an exception, then that can't be the case that that's good, because it would be irrational. In fact, lying is only ever successful because we expect people to tell the truth. So basically, this is a technical way of saying only be okay with doing something if you'd be okay with everybody doing it. The second formulation of the categorical imperative is this: so act that you use humanity, whether in your own person or in the person of any other, always at the same time as an end, never merely as a means. So what does it mean to treat people as an end? You treat people with dignity in themselves. You don't use people merely as a means. Now, he does say merely here. Do we sometimes use people as means? Do we use people? Yes. If you're at a grocery store and you're checking out, and the cashier is checking out your items for you, you're using them. But you're not merely using them. But to use someone only for their use would be a violation of the categorical imperative. People have intrinsic dignity, and we need to respect that dignity. We should never merely use people. This would seem to be not only an indictment of something like slavery, but an indictment of any kind of abuse of people. And the third formulation says, act according to maxims of a universally legislating member of a merely possible kingdom of ends. This one's probably the one that's the most difficult to figure out just looking at it. My shorthand version is this: humanity is a team sport. Be a team player. Morality and everything else is not something that we do in isolation. It's something that we do together. And the team is humanity. It's not my country. It's not my people. It's my family. It's us together with all rational beings. So we work together to maintain this. It's not something that I merely do by myself. It's not something you do by yourself. It's something that we all do as a kingdom together. Now, Kant, as a deontologist, actually ends up committing himself to what are considered some fairly extreme positions. Should you tell a lie? Never. In fact, he says, if you lie, you annihilate your own dignity as a human being. Well, is it ever appropriate to tell a lie? Consider this, for example, though. Let's say you're living in Germany in World War II. You are helping and protecting Jews from being slaughtered in the Holocaust. The Gestapo shows up at your door and says, do you have any Jews here in this house? Now, it seems like Kant would say you'd have to say yes here to avoid telling a lie. Now, to be fair to Kant, in order to avoid telling a lie, we don't have to say anything. We could really keep our mouths shut. But the idea is that even if something terrible happens after this, Kant would say, that's on them, the people that did the wrong, not on you. You did your job by maintaining your integrity, by maintaining the categorical imperative, and not lying. Is it ever wrong to kill someone? Murder in cold blood is one thing, but what about self-defense? And so on. So, in the next video, I'm going to look at some responses to Kant within the tradition of deontology, and then we'll move on to some other approaches entirely as well.